What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a very special episode of the GoodeBaker Podcast. I'm Nick Baker, and surrounding me, Shane Good.
What's up?
Paul Gorham.
Hi.
And Anthony Knight.
What's going on?
And we are here to talk to you not only about video games, but one in particular, and that is Pokemon. So I want to set it off here easily and go around the table and ask who's your favorite Pokemon, just to get like groundwork laid for this podcast special.
Absolutely.
So what do you got, Shane?
I think, I played a lot of the older Pokemon games. I haven't probably played too many of the newer ones. So I think Steelix.
Steelix?
I just really like that Pokemon.
Nice.
Why? No idea. I just always had one when I played Pokemon. Even if it was inefficient, I just always had one because I thought he was cool.
Steel ground type.
Cool.
Yeah, he's fucking dope.
I mean, Onix was one of the more iconic Pokemon from the Gen 1, so once it got an evolution, that was pretty cool.
Hard to get, like, if you don't got, like, that buddy with the extra game, like, to link up and have, like, the link cable and actually trade to get the Steelix.
Yeah. You mean I had 2 Game Boy Advances, and I played by myself?
And all the
Yes.
There you go.
So what about Paul?
I was a big fan of Mega Altaria, but not sure if that's going to exist ever again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Gyarados.
We'll get to those gripes a little later. How about
Nice.
you, Anthony?
Yeah, good one on the Gyarados. So, you know what? Actually, my favorite Pokemon for, just pretty much overall is definitely Snorlax. I use fucking Snorlax all the time. It's a great Pokemon. It's got some pretty cool abilities, but overall, like, stats and just, I kind of favor Pokemon that move kind of a little slower and then also hit like a fucking brick shit house. I don't know if we can swear.
Yeah, you can swear. I've already sworn.
We're
All right. So that's my favorite one overall. However, I really had a hard time kind of narrowing this one down. So I kind of like broke it up into like subcategories. Definitely overall favorite is Snorlax. My favorite design is actually Ivysaur. I remember back when like 97, I was like probably like 7 or 8, and when the Pokemon cards were really big, and I definitely thought Ivysaur was like looked super sick.
Really? That's interesting to me, just because out of like all 3 of those first gen starters, I was so drawn to Charmander and Charizard, and it's interesting to hear a point of view that Ivysaur was your favorite design, because that's not an unpopular opinion, I feel like.
Definitely an unpopular opinion.
And then pretty much just to kind of cap it off, like the best experience I've ever had with a Pokemon and a lot of the games is actually Pidgeot. Pidgeotto's evolution.
Yeah.
It's always been a staple for me. Actually, one of my favorite versions was actually Silver and Gold, and I had picked Typhlosion's starter evolution, and when I got to the 3rd gym, she was just kicking my ass. I believe it's Winry.
Yeah, Winry.
And and I just
Whitney, and
with the whole bug contest thing, I was just bringing like Pidgeotto in there, and we were just slaying it. And you know what? I just straight up power leveled until Pidgeot could beat Winry, and then from there on, just Pidgeot was just a staple on that team, and everybody else kind of fell to the back.
Yeah, Pidgeot's a great Pokemon. It also it started the trope of each game having evolutionary bird line too, which is interesting. That's another thing about Pokemon that I actually like, is that they iterate on themselves so that they've become a genre in themselves. So like a Pokemon comes out and you're like, they're just ripping it off.
Right. And then I guess just kind of like lastly from like the show, ones that kind of like stole my heart. Definitely, I was a little kind of torn up here, but definitely Charmander, that episode where his trainer just doesn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah.
That one gripped me.
Yeah,
and
hits
then,
you right in your kid heart, man.
And then also when they continued it on, when Totodile came out, Totodile was like just amazing, like comedy relief, just like going out there and doing shit. I liked his design, and those are 2 that probably like near and dear to my heart from the show.
Yeah, that was probably the better part of the show, was when it went to this Johto. I thought that was probably the peak part of the anime for me, at least. But anyway, what
about your show?
Yeah. So mine is definitely Raichu. I've loved that Pokemon ever since the first game I played. I had a Pikachu caught in Viridian Forest, leveled it up, and evolved it. And man, it's been such a clutch Pokemon for me in almost every game, the ones that you can get a Pikachu in early on, I always
almost like every game.
I kind of well, definitely more recently that's been a trope, but like back you really couldn't get Pikachu until the end of Johto, which was kind of a pain in the balls because you didn't really have, other than Mareep, a really good electric
also
Pokemon.
Staple.
Mareep definitely became a staple. Ampharos, great, but Raichu is my favorite.
That's a good pick. Now it's just the regular Raichu, right? What about the Surfer one?
The Alolan Raichu was really cool. I enjoyed that it got that Alolan love that very few Pokemon got that I thought more should. Variance is one of my favorite things from newer games. I think that's really, really cool and a good direction for Pokemon to go in, rather than all these weird Gigantamax. And
I think that's a good sustain, especially like when you look actually in the cartoon or the anime, however you want to look at it. But they actually had in the beginning, they actually did have some variances, like the I believe when they're going to all the islands and they have all the pink Pokemon. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah,
at all.
it's vague, but it's there for sure.
No,
I remember
Pink Rhyhorn.
It didn't exist.
Yeah.
Nope, don't remember it at all.
So from that, we have our favorite Pokemon established, but what we don't know yet is where we all started with Pokemon and what our first game was. Or maybe it was the anime for each of us. So, but the question at hand is, what was your first Pokemon game? Shane.
Sure.
We're going to go round robin like this.
Perfect. Yellow. Yellow was my first Pokemon game on Game Boy Color.
Solid first choice.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with being able to have every single starter.
Right.
Dude.
And the anime storyline made it that much more nostalgic to me, especially going back to it with Let's Go.
That was the only Pokemon game where I captured every Pokemon. All of the ones that you could get. I never had Error. What the fuck?
Missing No.
Is it Missing No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I never had Missing No because I didn't break my game for it. That was the only one
you definitely didn't need it to complete the Pokedex either. So
no,
that's a good call. What about you, Paul?
I started with Ruby version.
Ruby version was a great version. Very good runner-up to the Johto series. Sorry, you were gonna say something.
Sapphire and Ruby. It was a good game, but oh my god, was it a lot of surfing?
Yeah.
A lot of surfing.
Yeah, what was it? 7.3, too much water? IGN.
7 point.
Brother.
Is that their rating?
Yeah, that was their review for that game when it came out back then.
That's really funny.
Yeah,
they were great even back then.
They still get that in the comments now. Every Pokemon game. Too much water. Not enough Pokemon.
I don't want to jump too far, but I think that's can also hold true in Galar region as well, as like, holy shit, is there a lot of water? Like, God forbid you pick Sobble as your starter, because like there is just water, and more water. Oh, and ice. Lots of ice too.
There's
not Britain.
Yeah,
it's true.
There aren't a lot of options, at least I didn't see early on, for electric types. I really was kind of strung out on electric types until I got to the wild air. Well, we'll talk about this.
All right.
But
so
what was your first one?
Yeah, so I actually started with Pokemon like when it pretty much came to America and got big. Pokemon was all of the rage back in like anywhere from like 96 to 98. And of course it had popularity going on beyond that, of course, but that was when it was like you were the coolest kid on the playground if you had Pokemon. So I started with Red. I actually didn't own my own. I just played it off somebody that let me play it. Would let me play it rather. And I also played Yellow as well, and Blue, but I've played them all, but definitely did start with Red.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Started with Red. You don't really get much of a choice when you're given it. I got it for a gift from my grandmother with a Game Boy Color. Man,
dude,
good time.
Was it the see-through purple?
Yeah, it was a see-through. Yeah. It's damn right. Yeah. And it came without the back on it, dude. It's uncanny.
Yeah, losing the back on that thing?
Dude, I had duct tape on that day, too.
Wait,
so as I grew up, I learned a trick that you can take the red and the black wire
Yep.
Okay, and you can literally hook that up to the back where the battery is, and then like for a plug-in, you just splice the end of the cable, and you can actually just don't even need batteries. You just hook it up, and as long as you don't move like the Game Boy all that much, because if you do, it's just like
he's lit up like a Christmas tree. It's like,
But-
I was just trying to play Pokemon.
right.
The Elite
like
Four, I
when
didn't have enough batteries. Yeah,
The real Ash experience with that.
And like you're just like saving,
Yeah.
like when your batteries are gonna die, you just don't know when. So you just like, all right, I'm gonna play this shit till it dies. And,
yeah,
like,
that's the
keep
authentic
saving.
way to play Pokemon Yellow is just to hook it up to an outlet.
We're playing it in the car, waiting for the streetlights to go
God,
by so you can see.
Dude,
that
oh my
meme.
gosh, the backlight.
Yeah.
So I would always like, hopefully there was someone kind of like riding our ass. So,
Yeah.
like I could like.
Turn on your damn high beams, you son of a bitch.
Yo.
All right. So now that that's out of the way, we laid the groundwork for who we are and where we came from as Pokemon trainers. What are our thoughts going around the table? I know Shane hasn't played the newest game. What
It's
are
true, I
our thoughts
have not.
on the newest game, Sword and Shield? Now that we've us three, Paul, Anthony, and I have beaten it.
So you guys have all beaten it?
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
done the main campaign now.
Yeah,
so,
we definitely did.
Nice.
What after completing and beating not I guess the Elite Four, but this new tournament style that they have, what are some of the changes that you liked? What are some of the changes you didn't like? Kind of take it from there.
Pretty much with me, like I probably was the last one in the group to pretty much finish that game. I definitely took my time and kind of was like grinding in the beginning, even when I didn't really need to, just because I wanted to find like more Pokemon. I wanted to like really get working on that Pokédex, and so I spent a lot of time in all of these grasses trying to find stuff, and I actually made a lot of work. Like everybody was rotating out of my party because I didn't know who I wanted to have, and there was just a lot of options. So I like that, the fact that you can pretty much start the game, jump in there, and find kind of like who you kind of want to go with. But of course, as I progressed, people were constantly in and out of my party.
So Paul, as the resident expert on Pokemon at this table, the difficulty is one of the things that I struggled with. I thought it was way too easy, and if it's too easy for me, I know that an expert like you playing through the campaign must have been kind of boorish in that aspect. What do you think?
My party was leveled up doing raids really quickly, so I got to the wild area, and then I didn't really leave the wild area until my team was over level 60.
Wow.
And I kind of just rode through the game on 2 doubles and a beware.
Wow, so you just like, hang on, wait, okay, now nothing's an issue.
Yeah.
Well, the raid mechanic is really fun, and that's kind of why I stuck around in the wild area for so long. And there are a lot of other quality of life changes that were introduced that makes certain things really fun.
The fact that like your Pokemon will listen to you as long as like they're your Pokemon and you caught them, kind of like makes life a little bit easier. And getting to that thing where you've progressed too far, you've grinded too much, and the game punishes you for it.
Yeah, not being able to catch those new high-level Pokemon.
Also,
I
not
like
having,
that.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, man.
Not having to worry about HMs at all. I know that was kind of a thing that started.
Wait, what?
Yeah, HMs aren't.
It
in
kind
the
of
game
started a few
anymore.
games before.
You're going to learn a lot today, Shane.
Holy shit.
I didn't have to worry about what was in my party, so that's kind of why I just memed around with 2 doubles with Fluffy and a beware with Fluffy.
Nice.
This is news.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that bothered me most is the difficulty aspect. Getting, like you said, to the wild area and just immediately having all those Pokemon at your disposal, and it's just an overwhelming feeling, especially playing previous titles where, things have been opened up and restricted again, and as far as training Pokemon, the Battle Mansion and X and Y was one of my favorite things about that game.
Absolutely.
And I thought it was balanced enough to where you were getting enough encounters to level up the Pokemon in your party, but it wasn't too much to where you could just constantly, or I mean, I guess you could constantly do it, but you couldn't do it really quickly like it seems to be in this game, where experience is just thrown at you in the form of these raid candies.
Let me jump in here a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
before
go
we
ahead.
move on from difficulty. So like one thing that we kind of have to look at is like, this is Pokemon we're talking about. So like it's always going to be geared towards the same target audience. it doesn't matter that the actual target audience is like, has a very wide age gap.
13 to 47.
So there's that in mind. So it's always, starting the game, it's one of those kind of annoying things, but you just kind of expect it in Pokemon is that they're going to take you by the hand and, you're going to learn, how to catch a Pokemon. Like that was like, I went through recently, actually just started, Sword today. I had Shield, bought them both. I got one for myself and one for my wife. So I did start Shield today, so that way I could get one of the other starters that I didn't have, working on that grind for completing the Pokedex. So anyway, back to my point. What was it?
The point was
difficulty.
Oh, the difficulty.
The difficulty is, I feel like, been way ratcheted down, and I kind of understand because of the demographic they're going after, but at the same time, I wish that they're, as an aging man of 29, like, and us, we're like,
if there was a way to
practically
skip it,
gym winners, and it's practically Paul here is too, and he's been with the series a really long time. Early 2000s is a long time. It's
true.
I think it's kind of bogus to not at least think about some of that fan base at the same time as thinking about your new, younger fan base. Go ahead.
One of the cool things that Black 2 and White 2 did is if you beat Black 2, you unlocked a challenge key, and it would make the game a little bit harder on your next playthrough as an option for clearing it. A lot of like the XP candies that make it easier from the raids, I kind of like a lot because it saves a lot of time for when you are in post game when you're trying to grind for a competitive team for like
right. And I do feel like that was a little bit of what they were trying to go for there, but I think that if that is what they were trying to do with it, maybe like kind of taper that at the beginning of the game. Only like they sort of did with the ranking system, the star system, where you're doing like 2-star raids, 1-star raids at the beginning, and you end up doing like 5-star raids and getting more and more larger amounts of candy. But it then scales to what your Pokemon are actually able, or what they need for experience to the next level. So you'll get like, I think it's like 30,000 for a large candy, and that's enough to get a level 5 Pokemon.
Lot.
Yeah, I think it's 10 for large, and then it's 30 for extra large.
To possibly like level 20, in just one or two candies, like boom.
Well, I mean, also if we're gonna talk about the raids though, like I think that the raids are great. Especially, I definitely agree with you about them being kind of tapered off in the beginning. But it all really, I mean, just to kind of talk about your point, it all kind of just comes down to what's your play style? Like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna grind, or are you just gonna push through that game?
Right.
So, I mean, and then there's also that discipline. If you think that's kind of making it a little too easy, or maybe just completely forego it and then just cut through the game. But also on the other side of it being post game, I think it's great. Especially now, I'm at that point. I beat the game. I've got some pretty high level Pokemon working on right now. But I've noticed that I can't do 5-star raids by myself really anymore, because it's not my Pokemon, but it's the people that come in with me that are just getting wiped out by these Pokemon, and end up having we can't kill them fast enough. But I have gotten to the point where I figured out the online system a bit, and so it's definitely wonky, but
we'll get to that.
To the point where I can start joining other people's raids, or having people join my raids, less likely, but still. And I played around with that last night, and I was enjoying it. I got a bunch of those candies and stuff that we were talking about. But I noticed that when I went to go today, I wasn't really connecting to online, and I was trying to do it on my own. And I went to go do a 4-star raid on an Arachnid and the Bug Water, and it just stomped the rest of the team. Not me. I went in just with my Charizard, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, Charizard. And,
you can handle this.
And I wanted to see its Dynamax form, and so I sent him in, and I was fine, but just completely flattened all my allies, and I was like, all right, this is obviously something I can't do by myself anymore.
Looks around. Oh, everybody's dead.
I've been utilizing the legendaries in the game to clear 5-star raids solo. I have Sword, so I have Zacian and Eternatus, and both of their signature moves deal double damage to Dynamax Pokemon, which includes the raid bosses, so I've kind of just been stomping most raid bosses at 5-star level with those two. There's a couple of times where I've had issues when the raid boss has a lot of AoE moves, and then I usually have to bring in different Pokemon more specific, tailored to that specific raid.
Right, defense rather than like blatant attack. Yeah, that seems. What's this?
No, I was just putting up a note.
So that does seem fair now. I think that the way I felt about using legendaries in previous games, and this is just a quick aside because you made me think of it. I always felt like they were just way OP, and it didn't
super broken.
Feel great to use them on regular trainers or even train them up. It didn't feel satisfying. But with what you're saying about the raids, I think that it's almost made for that. You get those legendaries at the end of the game, and these raid bosses are tough. Like some of those Gigantamax Pokemon are really tough to bring down if you're like Anthony, utilizing the CPUs or trying to hook up with maybe lower level people online. It can make those really much easier. But so that's difficulty out of the way.
Whoa, you didn't get to me for difficulty.
All right, so what do you think about the new Sword and Shield difficulty?
So I'll tell you right now.
All right.
I'm excited because it's easy. You know what happens when games are quote unquote easy?
What happens?
Reddit takes fly, and now stupid, ridiculous challenges come out of nowheres. Like the people that want to
the
beat
Nuzlocke challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Like the people that want to beat the games with like one Pokemon or
it's already happened. Like there's like sometimes like on my phone I not really subscribe, but like I get articles and stuff, and Pokemon has been one of the things that's been really hot lately. So I've seen people play like clear the game on trying to like with a Magikarp like just solo. And
dude, the Magikarp ones are always so entertaining for me to watch.
When, like people do it on stream where they do like the shiny hunt streams, and I'm like, just a lot of time,
dude. A lot of time.
Those streamers got a lot of time though.
It's true. What were you gonna say?
People who do Magikarp runs get a new little trick now. Magikarp and Sword and Shield can learn Hydro Pump through the new TR system.
Yeah.
Really? That's is almost cheating.
Almost. We've evolved from the Focus Sash, Focus Sash flail.
Yup.
So along with difficulty, I kind of had the idea to throw in what are our opinions on the rivals in this game, Marnie and Hop.
Yeah.
What about
Shithop? His name's Shithop?
Huh? His name's just Hop, but what about Bede?
BD or Bade or however you want to
pronounce
his
Bidet.
Bidet.
I didn't really count him as much, just simply because you only really fight him a couple times. You don't fight him. Is
he like an
times.
Early
he's,
like wipeout? Never seen him again.
You technically have 3 rivals, so you start
spoilers.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert. For God's sakes, if you didn't get that from the beginning of the podcast. So Hop is your traditional quote unquote rival who gets the weakest version of weak. Let me try again. He gets the weak starter to your starter rather than the strong starter to your starter.
Oh, okay. So get wrecked.
Then his brother, the champion, again we said spoilers. He gets the strong starter to your starter, and you obviously know what that means. You're going to actually face him. But Hop is a really energetic, really positive loser.
Yikes.
He's terrible. I did not find a challenge with him at all. Any point.
Look at his strategy. He's like, he uses a lot of the moves that his Pokemon know are like, hey, we're gonna hurt ourselves to hurt you. He's basically like helping the people, whoever he's facing, beat him.
And what a great guy for doing it. But
great guy for doing it.
The fact that he starts with 2 Pokemon generally and doesn't beat you or doesn't even come close in the beginning.
Well, I mean, it's only a level 3 Wooloo, but I mean, Wooloo like is amazing, and like I don't care about double at all. Don't care about, but Wooloo by itself, I thought Wooloo was amazing. Remember our first battle when I threw out my Wooloo? That's when shit changed.
Yeah,
and,
man.
like I was losing and started to come back.
See, and now thinking about that, him having such a great Pokemon that it turns out to be, and still falling flat on his face throughout the storyline.
He just really needs to learn something else other than takedown.
He is an ass motherfucker. Paul?
I actually really thought it was pretty cool that he had 2 Pokemon in the first fight.
Yeah.
The amount of XP you get from the Wooloo is just enough to level up your starter, to learn the super effective elemental move against whatever you picked, so that whatever Hop had. And I thought that was a cool little thing, because in X and Y they just gave the starters like Ember and Bubble.
Right. And I think that is better design, especially when it comes to leveling up your Pokemon to begin with, because they usually try to get you to level 6 somehow to learn that elemental move. Like in the Johto games, you go and you fight the thief, but it's not until after you fought all the Weedles and Hootoots that you could ever fucking possibly see.
Weedles galore.
That's probably the best rival ever, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Question mark.
storyline-wise, I think that it just makes
The
way more
fact
sense.
that he was just like a complete dick.
Yeah, he was an asshole, which is pretty great. I mean, Gary was an asshole, but he wasn't. He was just a rich boy.
Yeah, they really pumped up their numbers on that one there.
Oh, so we've covered difficulty. We covered the rivals. No, we didn't cover all the rivals. What did you guys think of Marnie?
I mean, whatever. She was fine. I mean, I liked her character design and kind of like what they were doing with that in the story, as far as like taking Team Yell and having that take place. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a good. It was fresh. It was something different, and I appreciated it for what it was. And it wasn't like, hey, go to their hideout and solve this ridiculous puzzle or whatever it is, and just take on endless Zubats and Raticates and whatever their evolutions are. And they had all that kind of style, and I was like, okay, I can dig that. I thought that Bede was cool because it gives you that kind of like asshole that you kind of need in the story. He thinks he's like all high and mighty.
He really is kind of the only asshole in the story.
Yeah.
And
every story needs an asshole.
It turns out that he's not really even that great a rival. I thought that Marnie was the most challenging out of the 3, and that's not saying much considering that you trounce all of them. I feel like if you're even a
they
little
kind of
bit
make you feel like
player.
a beast. All of your rivals kind of make you feel like a beast because they like all talk a big game, like they're so great, and then you just show up and you just stop a mud hole in them, and you're like, okay.
I'm just gonna lay this trash can sign down right at your feet.
Just show up with my level 70 Beware.
Knock them out.
So kind of switching gears here, like on also staying with like opponents. I thought that the gym leaders were kind of cool. The concepts. I thought that the gym, the challenge was kind of cool, but I noticed as you kind of progressed, they were like, here was this good idea, and then you know what, whoop,
yeah,
where did that idea go?
It's called crunch.
So that was kind of cool as far as like their concept, the whole like going into the arena, you kind of coming out with your uniform, which also really confuses me because they give you the option to change your uniform, but you're never able to change into that uniform, which is kind of like, all right, well, thanks for giving the option and thanks for making me spend my money for this thing that I can't use. All right.
Yeah, and you can use it on the bike, but at the same time, I don't like the uniform look at all. I think that you should just be able to enter a gym,
right,
like in the anime, dressed to the nines, in your Kanye shades, and just knock that son of a bitch right out of the park.
Yeah.
Isn't that what everybody wants?
That's what everybody, I thought,
Lore-wise,
Game Freak.
Lore-wise, it's really cool, though, because it really connects battling to the culture of the Galar region, with it being
I do like
big sports.
Yeah, the bombastic nature of it, and bringing it back to like a really league feel, like when you think of the first
hypeness
Pokemon.
of that crowd when you're winning, and the crowd just starts chanting,
and then that song starts playing when the gym leader Gigantamax is like, and you're like, I'm gonna one shot this guy, but whatever. we'll enjoy this while it lasts. But yeah, the gym leaders I feel like we're a little impersonalized, just because I don't know what it is, but whenever I've played a game, but I don't really remember many of the gym leaders from a lot of the like Gen 5 and 6. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, those are really low on my ranking.
The really iconic gym leaders of like the first and second gen, like you remember them. I don't remember any of these. Like I remember the Water Girl and
because she had a good design.
Water Girl and the Electric Rock guy, because I faced them in the finals. Or no, it wasn't an Electric Rock guy. It was just a rock guy, right?
Yeah,
the guy.
Sword it is.
Yeah. Anyway.
You don't remember the buff farmer?
Oh,
Milo?
Wasn't he? Yeah, he was the first gym leader, right? The grass.
Yes.
Yeah. Not memorable designs in my opinion, other than like a select few.
I thought that the dragon gym leader like really sucked. I thought that like it was great that they brought in the doubles and everything. I was like, okay, cool, like doing something different here. But the way that he uses his Pokemon, the Pokemon that he picked, kind of sucked. There's a lot of really good dragon Pokemon in that game. Like, why didn't he have Sligo, like or whatever it's called? And then combo that with Hydration and Raining Dance, but the ones that they picked were just okay.
Yeah, I feel like we were promised before the game's released like a more challenging gym experience with like the puzzles and stuff like that. And at the beginning, we had the puzzles. Not
at least
really
we got away from fucking trials.
The challenge, but yeah,
find your way through the
again
maze.
though with the trials. I think that they were going in the right direction. I liked the puzzle aspect of getting into the gym and having something to do before you fight anybody, or having something to do in between fighting people. But it just tapered off, and I don't think the effort was really there to make those parts challenging, because they weren't. None of them were. They were all really easy. You herd the Lulu, you do all the other shit you have to do. You walk around the
sandstone. That was so much fun, though, herding the Lulu.
Yeah?
Was
you
it?
liked that? Well, I mean...
Are you into that?
It's aesthetically...
you have to herd, 20 Lulu into corral them into different parts of the area, and then they crash
that was
through all
definitely
these
one of the better
mountains.
ones.
But where they're going in the wrong direction with it, I think, is the one where you have to walk across the sand and you're falling through I think that makes the game sluggish in a not fun way. That's not a fun puzzle. Like where he had fun with even the simple Wooloo puzzle. Like it's aesthetically pleasing. There are these Pokemon that you are just getting introduced to. They're being introduced to you into the lore of a gym. Now that kind of envelops you into this world, like, oh, well, I wonder what the next gym's going to have, or maybe this crazy Pokemon's going to come out and make it hard for me to get there, but it never really works out that way.
Top tier design like Wooloo, but the one thing I found disappointing about Wooloo is it doesn't learn rollout.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
You have to have them roll through the bales of hay, and it never gets rollout as a move.
Yeah,
that's odd.
What a damn shame.
Now that we're talking about Wooloo, what do you guys really think about the new Pokemon in this game? They gave us a lot. Some of them are kind of all right, but kind of going along with all right, what are we doing here? We got a fucking snow cone. that's what I look like when I see. That's an older one, but it's just an example. For instance, Synestia. The haunted teacup.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
you don't like Synestia and Poltegeist?
Yeah.
Dude, my favorite, though, Drifloon. Literally my favorite and always will be my favorite Pokemon.
Drifloon is actually a really good Pokemon competitive.
Is he really?
Yep. It's really good.
I know nothing about the competitive scene, but is there a particular reason?
Stockpile, Aftermath, and the fact that it can have baton pass, and it can. Not sure if it's.
Baton pass.
I'm pretty sure it's minimize or double team, but one of those. I mean, you can throw him out there, and he can just sit there and survive, and like you can soak up so much of damage. It all depends on how you want to run him too. You could have a. You could have a pretty fun game with just all Drift Blooms and then have them do different things.
That sounds like the most dick thing ever.
And then you just baton pass, and you stack them up, and then you baton pass to the next one, and you just do the same. And then if you after that one's weakened, you can send them back out and just blow them up and just be like, all right, yeah.
So along with the new Pokemon idea, I do really enjoy the new designs for the new Pokemon. A lot of them were really pleasing to me. There weren't many that I even really disliked. One of the highlights for me was definitely Toxtricity. I loved that design. I loved the lore behind it. He was
Do you have the base one?
No, I don't. I just have the amped version. But I thought it was really cool how one's a guitar player, one's a bass player. And they're each one's low key.
Throwing a Rillaboom. That's at the end where they have the band. It's oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
They should have an Exploud up there too, singing.
All kinds of crazy sound-based Pokemon.
Unfortunately, Exploud got Thanos snapped.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's gone. He's not in Pokemon Sword and Shield.
So, what do you think? What's your favorite of the new ones?
Toxtricity is really good. I like. Is it the Octolock? Grapploct. Yes, I really like Grapploct and his design. His color scheme is great too. Him and Toxtricity are probably my two favorite new Pokemon. What about you guys?
I was pretty pleased with Lulu and Double, and then I really like Frostmoth's design.
Yes, Frostmoth's really good. The Snom, its move that it gets, the Struggle Bug. I could not I was struggling with Snom for a while, but then when I got Frostmoth, it was all worth it. But for me, by the time it turned into one, because it was just with me for so long, it was level 69, and I was like, all right, well, here we go, because it has to evolve at night. So that was one of those things. For me, I definitely didn't really like it at first because Yamper just kind of really wasn't bringing much to the team. Other than the fact that he has Nuzzle. Nuzzle's great for catching Pokemon and everything, but it wasn't until he turned into Bolthound and because he has Strong Jaw and I taught him Psychic Fang, it wasn't really until then and I was like, all right, yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, Bolthound has a great design too.
And then Colossal. His first two evolutions of Colossal, I absolutely loved. They're weird looking, but the way that they kind of the concept of hey, we're kind of like a machine and we're rolling around like a little car. I was like, the one where he's like a little car. That was my favorite time I had with him. Just everything he does makes him go faster, and I was like, all right, yeah, cool.
So what was I forget the smallest evolution's name.
Roly-Poly?
Was that based on Roggenrola?
It fills the same niche as Rock'n'Rolla, the early rock.
Yeah, they seem like very similar Pokemon, in my opinion. They kind of almost...
Yeah, but Rock'n'Rolla looks dumb until, you actually get it to Boldore. Boldore looks alright-ish, and then you get that last one, and you're like, okay, you look like a mountain.
Yeah.
You look like a mountain.
I just saw instant parallels between those two. And I loved... Colossal way more though.
Corviknight, I definitely like Corviknight a lot too. I hear that its stats aren't going to really hold up too well competitively. People aren't really sure what to do with it. But Steel, just having a Steel Bird is that's not Skarmory. I'm not a big fan of Skarmory. But to have that Pokemon, I think it's cool. It's going to fill a slot eventually. I don't think people have really wrapped their mind around how they're going to use it yet.
Yeah, and I think Corviknight being a 3-stage evolution really helps its stats in comparison to Skarmory, too. So that's the new Pokemon. We covered the difficulty. We covered... one thing I wanted to do before we moved on was talk about the competitive and also the wild area. Because that's such a big part of the game. the wild area having so many Pokemon in it and having so much variety in what you can do, whether it be raids or not. The one thing I saw very lacking in the wild area to me was the fact that there weren't any trainers at all.
There are some trainers. They're randomly walking around, and you have to talk to them first.
Do you have to talk to them? Because
there's only one though that I think that you can battle, and that she has all 3 of the starters that level up as you progress through the game.
Interesting.
I mean, I didn't really need for there to be trainer battles there because that's just gonna kind of make it more of a bog things down, because sometimes things in the wild area can become bogged down. You've got Pokemon that are randomly spawning, and you know, usually when I'm in the wild area, I'm on a mission or I'm doing something. Sometimes hatching eggs, or I'm just going around collecting wants. You know, I'm a big fan of the wild area. I like the fact that, because like really early on in the game, because I spent a lot of time there, I noticed that the weather was changing with the time. And like it was all kind of shifting and new Pokemon were popping up. And when I noticed that, I was like, oh man, this is really cool. But now that I've beat the game, I really wish that they actually had opened up a new section of the wild area. So now that you've beat the game, you've got another kind of area to explore. And it's got... you know, it honestly, if they took the Lake of Outrage and they moved it to like, hey, this is the post game area, I would have actually been even a little bit okay with that, because that's where a lot of like the rare spawns actually happen. Right. So I would have been more okay with that. Okay, but like just something to kind of reward me for, you know, feeling more like, oh, I've beat the game now, I've earned this kind of deal. And they did that before with. I think it was in Silver when you beat you got access to a new area where the mountain is, and I think you eventually face Red.
Silver.
Yeah. And then as far as competitive goes, competitive is going to be really interesting. People have now really been getting into this game, and you know, getting into the numbers, crunching them like people who are really into competitive do. And so they found out some interesting things. Like one of the fossil Pokemon is turns out to be like an absolute beast as far as attack goes. There's this thing that I was looking at where you can put on a choice scarf on it, and its ability kind of already acts like a choice scarf. So you have like kind of like a double choice scarf that you kind of go in there and you just lay waste. I think he's kind of like maybe a 1 or 2 hit cannon, but basically he's a wall breaker.
Yeah, Dracovish is really popular right now. Vicious Rend is considered a biting move for Strong Jaw, and it deals double damage if you move before the opponent's Pokemon on top of the boost from Strong Jaw. So if I remember the math right,
I think it's like 180.
180, but then Strong Jaw and Stab, it's like a 355 power move.
Christ.
Wow.
Wowzers. That's crazy.
It sounds like a banger.
The wild area, and I think the wild area is going to definitely affect the way people approach training Pokemon in competitive. It's going to make things easier.
The fact that there's more places than just one where you can go and breed Pokemon, because that's a big thing about competitive is you got to breed Pokemon. Got to get the good IVs and then train them up and get the EVs that you want. And, you know, they've kind of already done the math and found out, okay, you got to go and kill this Pokemon X amount of times, or if you use these items, it'll help speed up the process. But
don't forget bottle caps.
Right, and then also the mints too, to be able to change your nature. But the thing here that I think about that's going to be really big with competitive is that I've noticed that this Pokemon speed, all the Pokemon that they put in the game, the Pokemon speed is all kind of like almost kind of even keel, and especially where the new Pokemon seem to ordinarily they'd have like a lower speed, but because of the tier of speed of the overall game, those you actually have some other shiner Pokemon that stand out because that the speed there isn't Pokemon that where it, like for instance in the older games a lot of like a competitive play had to do with the fact that you are like how much can I overpower my opponent, and now it's kind of like, okay, where do I place? It's like when does this Pokemon go in versus like this, and like abilities and all that stuff is kind of tying in more rather than Like let's just throw in a dragon here and could do a couple dragon dances and then just outrage kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot more nuance now to the competitive scene. It's pretty far beyond me. I don't delve too deep into the competitive when these new games come around, but I do dabble, and it's always a lot of fun. And
yeah, if you're looking for a challenge, like you were saying with the difficulty, try the battle tower. Because when I go there, if I'm not on my A game, I just get my butt kicked. I've honestly gone there and failed out in the first battle. Yeah. So it's I have to kind of go in with my A team, like Gyarados, Snorlax, and whoever else is gonna fill that last spot. But usually those are my go-to guys for, hey, I'm just gonna come in here and get shit done. Especially with Snorlax running Curse, that's just what I do.
There is a handful of rental team options, which I thought were really cool.
Yeah, that's
for people who may not be as experienced with battle towers of previous games, or if this is your first Pokemon game, there's an NPC who'll be borrow one of my teams, and then a descriptive name.
Yeah,
what
they're
the
all
team
Pokemon
does.
with basically perfect, so you don't have to spend the grueling amount of time to finally get the perfect Pokemon that you want.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I feel can take the fun out of the game for me sometimes, is doing that. So it's not really something that I ever do during my playthrough. It's always kind of post game. I feel I gotta do things kind of when I play Pokemon, I gotta do it in my my own way. Gotta follow my own Shinobi path kind of deal.
Yeah.
Believe it.
There's also a Wi-Fi tourney happening right now. I forget the name of it, but I think it's a singles battle tournament, and then they announced the official VGC rules for the next VGC season, and they're restricting which Gigantamax Pokemon you can use in it, which I was kind of disappointed by, because I've been grinding raids for mostly Gigantamax Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're limited.
Right. Yeah, I think that there's always going to be this song and dance between the player and Game Freak in what they do and what is good for the franchise and what's not so good for the franchise. But
it's always Mama knows best.
Yeah, and
except when Mama cuts most of the Pokedex.
I mean, this let's kind of move on here, but let's I'm sorry to kind of steal your thing on directing things, but one thing I really wanted to talk about was the criticism that this game gets. And the kind of criticism that Game Freak is definitely getting from some of the
so that is a good transition from kind of talking about the core parts of the game. Now we're more focused on the things that are lacking, the things that are not to our favor, especially in the fact that this is the first game, right, that doesn't have the whole Pokedex available at some point during the lifetime of the game, according to what Game Freak has set up until now. So that's a big no-no.
Yeah. Ruby and Sapphire didn't have the full dex on launch, and Game Freak was like, we're sorry, but technical difficulties. And then they released other games, and you could eventually get all of them, and they were at least coded into the game.
Right, and that's not the case this time. They're not even coded in.
So you can't get the whole Pokedex? Is that?
No.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
It's about 400.
It's a big rift.
Wow.
Big rift in the Pokemon community right now, especially because these games were supposed to be so big, and the first coming to the Switch for the Pokemon series.
First one on a home console that was a main series game.
Right, that it was the actual Pokemon RPG, not.
I'm really surprised that they
or
did
whatever the
that.
fuck.
Especially with this whole talk about the wild area, it seems like that they could fit something like that where they could spawn whatever, really.
Right. But I think also one of the reasons that might have kind of guided this decision was something I kind of talked about earlier, with by excluding some of the some of the options out there, you change the format of competitive, and that could be a reason there. But one of the things I wanted to address really is, as far as the criticisms go, I don't have a whole lot of criticism for the game. I think that they did a pretty decent job where I was able to at least get enjoyment out of it, and that's really, I think, that as players, what we're all really looking for.
I completely agree. I think that they did a great job in bringing the Pokemon RPG that we've known and loved onto a system that is so convenient and in the now.
Yeah.
And but granted, it doesn't look as good as it could, or it really doesn't perform online the way it should. Mm-hmm. Like when you go online in the wild area, it chugs like a son of a bitch.
The thing that this is kind of along the lines of what I wanted to bring up was that the fact that Game Freak and Pokemon in general is so big and it has so much resources.
It's the biggest multimedia franchise.
Right. So, with all of these resources at their disposal, they really should have been able to deliver a really polished product. And, it's one of the things that it kind of like I'd like to talk about with a lot of games. Like, instead of like just trying to get shit out and push it out so that way, we can start making some money on it, really just like take the time to develop, to push out like a really good product. Because like that people are going to buy this game. A lot of people bought this game. This game is like one of the biggest selling games. So with that in mind, like, you're going to be making money. So why not like develop, like put something out there that that everybody would have loved. Mm-hmm. And then kind of brings me into like another thing I wanted to mention was that it kind of goes along with this line is like, I feel like everybody has like envisioned their perfect Pokemon game. Mm-hmm. And we all kind of have our own vision, and we've told Game Freak what we want. But it's like what we were talking about before. It's almost like Mama knows best. Don't worry about it. We're just gonna go out here and we're gonna put it in a new battle mechanic, and then we don't even know if it's gonna stick around till next gen.
Because they scrapped the last 2 new battle mechanics.
Exactly.
Right. It just seems like every time it's a workshop, and every time a new Pokemon game comes out lately, it's you have your new gimmick, you have your new Pokemon, and you have your new storyline. Quote unquote new storyline. It's the same shit over and over again, other than Alola, which was different and not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah. And the last few games haven't really had a strong like post game experience. Like in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, there's like the Ultra Beasts you can go around collecting after, but like there's not. In earlier games, there's a much larger post-game experience. Like Gold and Silver, there's Kanto.
Oh, right, for sure.
There's
that's like
a whole
that
other gym experience.
I would actually base my ideal Pokemon game that I wish they would come out with along the lines of Silver and Gold. The fact that when you've gone off, you can go out and go to other areas and explore. It's something that I wish that they would like eventually get to. And the fact that, like, let's get to a game where we can basically say, all right, if story's not really our forte, let's just give it an open world game where we don't restrict where the person's going to go. They go do whatever in their own area, and the only way that we kind of guide them to do what we want them to do is based off of difficulty rating. So, if you're going to go off against, like, a different gym out of order, that gym's just going to be really tough. And that's just something that I'd kind of like to see, where it's like really just not holding your hand. You go off there, you train, kind of deal.
I think there are a lot of improvements that they could make in the series that we could rattle off here, and I feel like that's a whole nother podcast too.
Suggestions,
like you were saying with the difficulty, and what, like we've been talking about is when from the get-go, the hand holding for me has gotten to a point where it's just so repetitive, and it brings down the beginning of the game so much that if there was just a simple option to say, I know how to catch Pokemon, I know what this shit is, I don't need to be told I don't need to know how to run, I know how to press the B button, it's over the top at this point. And also, to bring it back to another thing, the traversal, I love what they've done with the traversal now, where the bike is your main mode of transportation around like the main areas.
Wait, you mean you don't get the bike halfway through?
No, you actually get it really early on, right? It's
fairly early on,
I think
and
it's
then
like right after.
I don't even remember
game,
the
maybe?
bike being like the bike was like 3/4 of the way through in all the games that I played. That's bullshit.
Yeah, they give you that, and they give you the fishing rod immediately. Like you start the game with it.
Wow.
You can catch a Magikarp as soon as you go to the professor's place. Off on Route 2, you can catch a Magikarp over there. And
no wonder why Magikarp runs are so easy now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can skip the catching tutorial though in this one, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and I mean, if they put that in the game where they could skip the catching tutorial, they should have just been like, all right, here, and this skips you to like any kind of important story beat. And that's another gripe that I have is the story is never as compelling as it was when I was younger. Maybe that's an age thing, but it's yeah, you know.
I mean,
another whole podcast.
Yeah, I mean, just to taper that off, I was gonna say, so one that really the game that brought me back into the series was definitely X and Y. X and Y had great starters, great concepts right there. I love Delafox and Greninja. The other one kind of was like, all right, yeah, good job, Grass Guy.
Good job, Grass Guy.
Doesn't remember name.
No, I remember what it looks like, just not its name.
Chestnut is the final Evo. Chespin's the first stage.
Yeah. So, but I thought that was actually one of the ones that had a good story, and it brought me back.
But was it X and Y with the random trading where you could trade like a level 3?
That's where they introduced that, yeah.
That was so
Wonder trading.
Entertaining.
Mystery Train.
Oh man, that was so entertaining.
Yeah, they still have it now.
So, now that we've kind of broken down the new games, we've given our thoughts on a lot of what the contents of the game is, I think we have a good idea of what our favorite Pokemon games are. And where this stands with it. So I want to create a definitive list of the regions. So we got to rank these regions now.
Nice.
Where on this list do you think Galar region?
Oh, I ranked them all.
Place? See, so somebody did the homework.
Yeah. So I ranked them all. Pretty much number one on my list is definitely Kalos. I definitely enjoyed.
A lot of people did the homework.
I definitely enjoyed X and Y a lot. I thought the story was good. The new Pokemon were really cool. And the fact that they had the Battle Chateau or the Battle Mansion, whatever it was, that was also really good. The Audino girls going in there, grinding for that EXP. I definitely enjoyed that. Number two, definitely Johto. Johto, honestly, I was really conflicted. It was either going to be Kalos or Johto, for sure. Silver and Gold forever are just going to have a special place in my heart. I even like that they redid them for the Nintendo, I think it was just regular DS. And then after that, got to go back to the original. Definitely Kanto. I mean, it's just the staple. It's just where we all kind of like started this journey together. Granted, the models aren't all the best, and like Geodude looks really weird. But it was still cool. And then continue on, definitely Galar region is actually my number 4. I like the region. I like the Pokemon that they give you, and I like the graphics for what they're doing, and I like the direction they're moving. I kind of thought we were already really kind of here with Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. I hate all the sequels. It's like, why couldn't you get it right the first time? But I think that the Galar definitely brings kind of like what I've wanted, and I'm really interested to seeing them to get even closer to what I actually want. And then I'll just kind of list off the rest. Definitely Hoenn. After that, it was good. It's just a lot of surfing. And then Alola is definitely on there. The reason why Hoenn's higher is because when they did the remakes, being able to fly around on the top of your Pokemon and find the rings for the legendaries, I thought that was really cool, and just the fact that you can fly around was cool. And Alola, just the trials, man. I wasn't a big. The trials weren't really a big hit for me. I don't feel like they really kind of gave me enough for new stuff. And the fact that they gave me the same game twice, I didn't really like. And then the last two, Sinnoh and Unova, I didn't like Unova's starters at all. I ended up with Tepig, and I didn't even really like Tepig that much. And then Sinnoh, I kind of liked Piplup, but which I think it's that one, right?
Sinnoh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was a fan of that, but
yeah, good region.
Those ones kind of like that's where I kind of started to lose interest in Pokemon, and then X and Y brought me back.
Mm-hmm. That's why we're making this list. We gotta break down what regions we should see pieces of go forward. I think I that's really what interested me most about making this list. So what do you got, Paula? Or is that's everyone, right?
Yeah, that's all 8.
What did you have for your list?
So I'm gonna rank mine kind of on replayability because that's kind of how I'm gonna rank them.
That's you.
Yeah, the original Gen 2 games are really enjoyable and like really relaxing to replay through, and same with like Yellow version. And then after, I'd say the original Gen 3 games, so like Emerald version was really fun, and it felt really great making it to the Battle Frontier and getting to explore some new areas a little bit in Emerald version, getting access to some Johto Pokemon like Sudowoodo and Smirgle. Felt like a good accomplishment, like getting to that point in the game.
Right, getting some of your more favorite Pokemon from a previous game too. I loved that. That was really rewarding.
I've replayed Platinum and the Black and White and Black 2 and White games a lot. Those would be like the third tier for that. And then I've done several replay throughs of like X and Y, but they're not as enjoyable like the second time around as much for me, and that might be because of nostalgia. But and then I attempted a second run through of original Sun and Moon, and I ended up putting it down, and I didn't even finish my playthrough of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon at that point, and I'm probably only going to replay the Sword and Shield games for the other cover legendary.
Yeah.
When I buy a used copy of Shield.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. These new games don't have a ton of replayability. They seem more to be geared towards collecting the Pokemon in the Pokedex at large. But,
Kento. That's it.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's all I know.
What about you, Shane? I mean, you
Kanto.
played it. What's that?
That's Kento. That's
Kanto?
Number 1, Kanto.
the rest of them.
1 through 8, Kanto.
Nice.
So, we really hope
Diablo.
just Paul and Anthony's list to go off of here because I didn't create a list.
You didn't do your own homework?
See, I thought this was going to be...
We were assigned homework and you didn't do it?
I said the design was
teacher.
homework. All right, listen.
All right.
Let's bring it back down. This was supposed to be a discussion. This podcast went on way longer than I thought it was going to. So I thought, geez, let's just combine your two lists. Let's see where we're at with you guys because you guys are more experienced than
Well,
even me.
what's your top 3?
My top 3 is Johto, Kanto, and probably Hoenn and Sinnoh are like, but I think Hoenn probably. Just the first 3 are just so nostalgic.
I thought that was interesting that kind of you both kind of went with like them in kind of order. I'm surprised that you didn't like Kalos more. That just because the fact that like the game kind of goes on for a while, and by the time you get to the Elite Four, if they call it that in that game, they're all pretty high level, and you're pretty high level, and I was like, all right, this kind of feels a little bit more challenging.
At the beginning of Sword and Shield, I thought that's how it was. I thought that you eventually were going to be in like the 80s for the final fight against the champ, and in this case, definitely not. I think it's like 70s or something.
Wow,
But
it's a pretty big difference.
that was pretty disappointing for me for that. But yeah. So, what was your top 3?
My top 3 was Kalos, Johto, and Kanto.
Okay. So I mean, it's pretty solid that Kanto and Johto are definitely
Like
Yeah,
I said,
top
Kanto.
I mean, Johto is just amazing. I mean, just the original portion of actually what Johto was, I thought that was really good. So, I mean, I never really figured out until like later generations what Sudowoodo actually was. I didn't know what typing it was. It was so confusing for the longest time.
So not necessarily a definitive list, but we got our favorites out there, and definitely
yeah, I stand by mine 100%.
The classic top 3 for sure are gonna live in our hearts forever. But so the actual homework that I had told you guys to do was create an original Pokemon design. No art required. Just kind of come up with a concept for a Pokemon that you might want in a next installment, or something that you might see a gap in the Pokedex and like, oh, there's not this. I wish there were this.
There's a lot of dark Pokemon. There's a lot of dark type is like for it to show up in like second gen, like dark type took over.
Yeah, there are quite a lot of dark types.
There's more. So, I think there's more dark types than there are normal types.
What are your original designs? Starting with Shane.
Starting with me, huh?
Yeah.
So obviously, I don't know a ton about Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
But I thought it would be really interesting to have a Pokemon that has some sort of like contradictory, like not specifically, but like a fire grass type, like something that like. It does like a glass cannon, like a really good amount of damage and can hurt the other opponent, but like its moves somehow like I wouldn't say hurt itself, but like when they're used, it puts itself at a disadvantage. So like it has this one really strong attack, but can't really consistently use it. So like it has a spot, but doesn't.
So like Overheat.
Yet again, I don't know like a ton
it's
of...
a really powerful fire move, but it lowers your special attack by 2 stages, so you have your special attack every time you use it.
Yes, like a Pokemon that's more like less move based off of that, but more like that's kind of just like how it works. I thought that would be really cool.
Kind of riffing off what you said, I think it could be kind of a cool idea to have almost like a grass phoenix and have it start as like a grass type, and then have a move that it ignites and it becomes a fire type.
That'd be cool.
It becomes a fire type for a turn, but its attack is like super boost or something like that, and this move is like super great that it uses while it's a fire type. But then it becomes a normal type when it becomes ashes, and then it grows again like a plant.
It could be based off of the tree that only germinates after a forest fire.
Yeah. It could be really cool.
That was something that I was thinking too of the concept of something along those lines. But I definitely went with something different.
What about you, Paul?
I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth here than Shane did.
Look,
hang on. That's all right. I expected.
What did you expect?
Honestly, you gave more than I expected.
Yeah. Hey.
Damn straight.
I have a Pokemon line with a typing level up, like how some moves that it would learn leveling up and base stats. So Gattuner is a normal electric type. It's probably gonna be kind of reptilian in appearance with like speakers or amps in its legs, and then one of those metronome, like the things in a metronome that swings back and forth, ticking the meter. Probably something like that located in its back, or maybe even its tail being the metronome meter. And then it's a normal electric type, and it levels up with Sonic Boom to evolve into its evolution Gitampo. They'd have the own tempo ability or the soundproof ability, and then they'd learn a lot of the sound-based moves like Metal Sound or Heal Bell, Snarl, probably the new electric move introduced in Sword and Shield Overdrive, and Hyper Voice. And then for base stats, I'm not going to say the exact numbers I came up with, but it'd probably be like higher HP and then balanced offenses and lower speed.
Cool. Anthony?
Nice. So, kind of along the lines of what Shane said earlier about like typing, like we've had a few ones that have come along, like Joltik, where it's a bug electric, and so it goes off of that flying. It's not really weak to flying anymore. So I kind of like that. I don't feel like we've gotten some areas where they're kind of doing this, but we don't have a whole lot. And the areas that I've noticed that aren't getting a lot of that attention or that love is definitely like fire water and even fire grass. it's kind of hard. Other than like I thought you guys brought up great points earlier with the fire grass, but it's kind of one of those ones that's kind of hard to bring. And also, I thought that fire water also was another one. Now I know that there is a fire water Pokemon, but it's like a legendary or something, and I think it's an event legendary, so it's not even
Volcanion.
Yeah, it's not even something that you normally can ordinarily get.
Right.
So, for my fire water Pokemon, I don't have a name for it, but it's gonna be it has the appearance of an eel, and it would be a 2-stage evolution. So I was thinking like for the first stage, it could probably just be like an eel that doesn't have arms. And then the second one, it actually grows arms. So for this one, it can go to the surface, and that's where it hunts for its food. And its food source is like Krabby or some of the other shellfish Pokemon, because that's where I figured they'd be up, is on the beach and stuff. So, it hunts for its food out of water, but it lives in the water. Like it has like, it makes its like caves in like the rocks on like a rocky coast or something. So that's kind of like what I thought for that. So that's the kind of like it could like blend there, and as far as like a Pokedex entry. And then for that one, basically I was thinking that that it would kind of run both attack and special attack, because it would have moves that like obviously it would probably have something along the lines of Crunch or Fire Fang, and then also things like maybe Liquidation, Hydro Pump, some of the more staple kind of things. I don't think, definitely not a Bubble Beam kind of Pokemon though.
No mistranslation.
And so it would be, attack, attack / speed, special attack with a speed build. So it's not really going to have defenses. It's kind of more of like that glass cannon kind of deal. And for what I was thinking is for this one is I kind of wanted for abilities. I was thinking, okay, maybe Anticipation might work, and then, or I was actually kind of leaning more towards Mold Breaker, because one of the things is for water teams is Rain Dance. So if you throw out that Pokemon during a Rain Dance, its fire moves aren't going to do very well. So I was thinking, okay, well if it has a Mold Breaker, it would make sense, because it lives in the water. It's already breaking, barriers there, being a fire type living underwater. So I thought that would be kind of cool. And then kind of that was like really the big one. But kind of other concepts I had was like a Grass Fire, which is kind of just like, was like a forest bear, where it looks kind of, kind of like the ice bear, I forget its name.
Beartic?
Yeah, Beartic, but it's more of like kind of like got that grass feel, and then along the back it could kind of have like a bit of like a Typhlosion feel to him. And I was, maybe it could go with like the whole pseudo legendary of being like the protector of the forest kind of deal, and just a one stage, keep it simple, because that's usually where like a lot of the Pokemon that are kind of like test phase ones, I guess you could make, like Girafarig is one that I thought. And then the last one kind of was, I thought would be a really kind of cool one fitting in the psychic realm, because, psychic Pokemon are usually the ones that kind of come in and doing a bunch of crazy shit. But I was thinking about like a psychic steel Pokemon that has, but it's more of like based around a mirror. So you could have like kind of like some of the fighting Pokemon are, the fighting psychic ones, where they're like all like Zen. You could have like this guy that has Zen, but he has like a floating mirror that floats around him. And one of the things that he could do for an ability is like it kind of comes in, it auto populates like a either like a reflect or a light screen, or like as a hidden ability, it could have like where like or a move where like it kind of does a protect, like Mirror Coat. Like things that kind of go along with like the theme of being a mirror.
Right.
Would that mean that it's a glass cannon?
So
would it have defenses at that point?
So I was thinking about having it not be so much have good defenses, but the fact that it would have an ability that where it can do like put up like a light screen or a reflect. Or just have that on the Pokemon so it can run that. But if it has that, like the protecting against damage and uses like the kind of mirror thing, it could absorb it within the mirror like a special attack move, and then make it so that way its special attack raises drastically, kind of deal. Where it's not like, hey, like I think it's Turninator.
Terminator, the dragon fire.
So it, like if it does a physical attack move when it uses its protect move, it hurts you.
Yeah.
I think Marini or Toxapex does it too.
It poisons the target.
Yeah,
and,
bunker.
That'd be cool if it could like.
Doesn't that might be iron.
But that would also be like another one stage.
If you could like absorb attacks, that'd be cool too.
Togedemaru get a protect like that too.
Yeah, get spiky shield.
Though it was originally for Chestnut, right? Right. So my concept has kind of changed over the course of today. I've been thinking about it all day, but my favorite typing, well, it's 2 usually, but mostly I go with electric types. I really, 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 really like electric types. Obviously, Raichu's my favorite, so I had this really brilliant idea where Digltt's kind of a trash Pokemon. I don't like how it looks. I don't enjoy the design of Diglett or Dugtrio.
Damn,
so I'm like
really hurting Dugtrio's feelings.
Yeah, man, Dugtrio.
So I want to create my own.
Doug crying right now.
I want to create a mole Pokemon that should be in a cave, that looks as if it's spent its whole life in a cave and it's come to adapt in that cave, and not necessarily in the ways you would expect. So it has this big glowing light on its head, like a. I guess
headlamp?
Yeah, the headlamps that coal miners would use, but it's embedded in its head, and its eyes are super, super, super tiny. But the light, when it's lit up, allows it to see as much as possible. But when the light is off, its eyes open up to be really, really large. And I just thought that was like a really cool concept that like could be aesthetically pleasing in certain situations, like you're in a deep cave and the Pokemon's art actually changes. And
so is it an electric ground?
It's electric ground, yeah. I thought that that's a really cool typing that I don't see very often in Pokemon. I can't think really of many off the top of my head. Yeah.
So the what I think would be, just to kind of like caveat off what you're talking about, is like for the mole, or like I picked when you were saying it, I kind of pictured it.
Mole or like gopher, like kind of small rodent.
Do you guys know what a vole is? It's sort of it's basically the same thing, but it's got that weird kind of stuff on its snout.
No, yeah,
and like that's the thing that could be like illuminated. Like they on the end of all of its thing, it's got like a bunch of like little flashlights on the end.
But yeah, I want it to be cute though. I don't want it to be like ugly as fuck, like those things.
Creepy motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, gopher would work out for what you're picturing with like the light on its head.
Yeah, I was thinking like Winnie the Pooh style gopher.
Rossetti from Animal Crossing.
Yeah, or something like that. But yeah, actually, that's a great concept for it. But yeah, good on you guys. Good for doing the homework. You guys definitely fucking killed it. You went like way deeper than I expected.
Hey man, I love Pokemon. I've been playing it for over 20 years. You know, I plan to stick with it. And something that, you know, I eventually like to pass on to, you know, the next generation of, you know, whenever I have kids. You
Would
know,
that mean that you knight your kids into Pokemon?
You goddamn right I would.
As we should all do.
I
to
dub thee.
children in our lives.
I dub thee thy Pokemon trainer.
or we just set a bunch of the starters in front of them and just like kind of close the door. Like, all right, you got to pick one before you come on. So that has been our Pokemon special episode of GoodeBaker Podcast. What did you guys think? You guys have fun?
Was this a long one? Like
No,
how long?
Oh yeah.
Jesus, it's like an hour and a half. At
Yeah.
least.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely our longest episode of the podcast, and first time we've ever had guests on, so that's pretty great.
Yeah, it was
pretty fun.
Hey man, it was cool.
Yeah, glad to have you guys. It was fun.
Been meaning to make my appearance.
Oh yeah, we've been trying to get Paul, the Pokemon expert, on for a long, long time, and this seemed like the best opportunity. So.
Next year, when Final Fantasy comes out, hit me up again, because that is the one that is gonna like. I will go wild.
Trust me, there's going to be a lot of Final Fantasy talk on this podcast.
We usually do talk a decent amount about Final Fantasy.
And Cyberpunk and all the other games you expect next year.
Post podcast, like I wanted to talk to you about Final Fantasy Online, because I noticed you were playing that earlier.
I've been playing. Yeah,
Infinite Dabble.
Next week's podcast. It's been great chatting with you guys about Pokemon. Hit us up in the comments, like, subscribe, and of course share with your friends because we're all Pokemon fans out there. Let us know what we could do better. We're bumbling idiots here, but
Truth.
We'll get it done in the end. And for the rest of you out there, peace.
Peace.